Hello, I'm JW, and this is a part of a series on the wiring regulations, BS7671, and more specifically the 18th edition, which is the one with the blue cover. That's effective from January 2019. And in this episode, we're going to have a look at part 4, and basically comparing the differences in the new version to what's in the existing one, which is the 17th edition Amendment 3. So this is part 4, which is protection for safety, as it always was. And just look down the contents page here, and we can see that we've got a 419 now. Provisions where automated disconnection, according to Regulation 41132, is not feasible. This is actually an entirely new piece, so that's been completely added in, so we'll obviously have a look at that. Now, of the rest, the first main change of any kind of relevance is this one here with 411312, and we've got this additional piece put in here. It's regarding protective equipotential bonding. We've got metallic pipes entering the building having an insulating section at their point of entry need not be connected to the protective equipotential bonding. So this would be an example where you've got a metal water pipe, say, coming into your building. Then there's a short plastic section, and then you have, say, copper pipe, say, elsewhere in the building. So in those situations, they do not need to be connected to the protective equipotential bonding anymore. Previously, of course, they would. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that you don't connect it in every circumstance. Bearing in mind you could connect it if that was deemed to be appropriate, but it's no longer a necessary thing. And bearing in mind, certainly in the case of houses where you've got plastic piping is a very common thing, certainly in newer properties, it may be that the pipes coming in is an older metallic one, and then all the pipework inside is plastic, so you don't have to actually bond that small piece attached just as it comes into the property. So that is obviously new. So the rest of that is pretty much as it was before. On the same page here we have automatic disconnection in case of a fault. And the added part here is that the protective device shall be suitable for isolation of at least the line conductor. It doesn't really change anything, but it's just putting in there that it must be just for the line conductor. It could switch the neutral as well if you wanted, but the bare minimum is should be suitable for isolation of at least the line conductor. Most devices already will, so again, not really a significant change. This part lower down, however, is a more significant change in that maximum disconnection time stated in Table 41.1 shall be applied to final circuit with a rated current not exceeding 63 amps with one or more socket outlets and 32 amps for fixed current using equipment. Previously, that's just stated final circuits up to 32 amps, so this is a new part here with the 63 amp up to with the socket outlets, and again 32 amps is the current using equipment. And Table 41.1, which is this one up here with the maximum disconnection times, this is what it's referring to as actually it applies to. And there is a change in here, although there will be marked, there's nothing particularly relevant there, it's the old AC and DC business again. The main change here is that on a DC system, in a TN system there, the disconnection time here is now 1 second, previously this was 5. The rest of the figures are the same. But just bearing in mind that one there is now 1 instead of 5. And bearing in mind this is for DC only, and only on a TN type of system between the voltages specified here. Others, of course, are as they were before. There are a few minor changes here, again as marked in the margin. Again, nothing particularly outstanding or marvellous in there, but say some of the bits have been altered. And 411326, as you see, has actually been deleted, hence by the mark there with nothing actually across from that. That essentially referred to using a supplementary equipotential bonding, which where disconnection times could not be achieved, so that has been removed. Now this particular item here, 41133, is fairly significant. In AC systems, additional protection by means of an RCD with a rated residual operating current not exceeding 30 mA shall be provided for, and we've now got a socket outlet with a rated current not exceeding 32 amps and mobile equipment with a rated current not exceeding 32 amps for use outdoors. Now the change here is that previously these things did exist, but this was actually for socket outlets with a rated current not exceeding 20 amps, so that's been increased to 32. And the mobile equipment part is actually the same, so socket outlet up to 20 amps, it now goes up to 32. That will also cover various other types of those, say those blue type industrial ones or the red ones for the 3-phase requirements and so on. So pretty much it's all socket outlets up to 32 amps, not just the ones that are more commonly used for lower currents there. And something has been removed. We've still got the exception to number 1 there, is permitted where, other than in a dwelling, you need a documented risk assessment determining that RCD protection is not necessary. The thing that's been removed, hence the line continuing past, is the one which used to say for a specific labelled or suitably identified socket outlet for a particular piece of equipment. So this was a sort of horrible bodged get-out thing where some people might have put, say, a socket in their house that said for freezer only or for fridge only or something, and then claim that that didn't need an RCD because it's labelled up as such. That exception is no longer applicable. So essentially, if it's going to be in your house, you're going to be needing RCDs on all socket outlets, regardless of whether they're for televisions, freezers, or pretty much any other item. And you can't use this one in a house because, of course, you can't have a documented risk assessment in a house because it's not a controlled environment. Now, continuing with RCDs, we've got 41134, additional requirements for circuits with luminaires, and this is within domestic or household premises. Additional protection by an RCD with a rating of 30 milliamps shall be provided for AC final circuits supplying luminaires. So, essentially, in your house or houses, all lighting circuits now require an RCD, regardless of how they are actually installed. And again, this is only for within homes or domestic premises. Does not apply to industrial or commercial installations. Now this might seem like a big deal, but in reality it's not, because most homes are already going to have an RCD on the lighting circuit. It's been pretty much the case that all circuits in homes have had RCDs, certainly for the duration of the previous edition. In theory, you could install one, say with steel conduit in your house or some kind of shielded or armoured cable, and therefore not have an RCD on the lighting circuit, but in reality that's not likely, so although this is new and it's a requirement, it's not going to really change a whole lot. As I say, most of the time you're going to have an RCD on the lighting anyhow. But do bear in mind, if you've got something like a steel conduit installation and it doesn't have an RCD on it, then effective from this edition, then it will need an RCD just for the fact that it's a lighting circuit in a house or dwelling. And from this point onwards, so basically 41144, and actually going through sort of 4647 and so on, quite a lot of these have been renumbered. The actual content is pretty much the same, but we've got, say, another one here, which is, say, 4114201. It's not actually new, that was used to be called 41146, but essentially it's the same kind of idea. It's just been, I say, renumbered, so it follows on from where 46 would have been, except it's now 4201 instead. So a bit of renumbering and rearranging. So if you have anything that specifically refers to the numbers, you'll need to update that, but the actual content of it is pretty much the same as it was before. This table here, 41.2, this has been expanded to now include values up to 63 amps. Previously it only covered up to 32, so there's some extra figures in there. Other than that, no real surprises with that. And over the page we've got a few here again which have been renumbered, so 4114.203 for example, that used to be called 41148, and there's also 49 which is now 4204, so same content but just changing the actual numbers for that. Now there's a new bit here under 41151 for a TT system, and the bit here is what's new. The neutral point or the midpoint of the power supply system shall be earthed, and if a neutral point or midpoint is not available or not accessible, a line conductor shall be earthed, so a minor sort of addition there. And for 416, which is IT systems, there are a few variety of changes down here. Again, none of these are particularly major, but there are a few additions and items there. IT systems are not particularly common because this is where, as it says here, live parts are insulated from earth or connected by sufficiently high impedance. Not to be confused with IT as in computer equipment, nothing to do with that. If people are interested, we can cover that in a separate video, but so I'd say there are a certain number of changes there. Don't be fooled again by all the marks in the margin because a lot of these don't actually amount to anything, but say there are a number of alterations in there. Now the bit that's new is 419, and this covers 491, 2 and 3, and essentially this is covering a fairly limited circumstance, but it's where automatic disconnection is not feasible in circumstances where you've got electronic equipment with limited short-circuit current is installed, or the required disconnection times cannot be achieved by a protective device. And there's a couple of examples here, so it's essentially installations with electronic converters greater than 50 volts. So this is essentially a new section here. It's not particularly lengthy, that is essentially all of it there, but that has been, say, added in, so again may apply in a certain limited circumstances. And again, most of this is just referring to other things which would apply or where they don't apply. So again, if that's of a applicable item, then certainly worth having a read through that. Now, I'll be glad to know that this mess is still in here, so the thing about the steel consuming units, it's still in there as unchanged, nothing altered there whatsoever, so your ferrous metal and steel is an example, and non-combustible is undefined. So that's all basically as it was before. The only thing that's been deleted here is a note which essentially said it will be implemented from January 2016. We could all see it's well beyond that date now, so that note has been removed. But unfortunately, nothing was changed here regarding what actually non-combustible is or can be, and no particular standards regarding non-combustibility or combustion tests have been referred to either, so no good there. Now at the bottom here we've got 42117. Now this is a new one. Arc fault detection devices conforming to this standard are recommended as a means of providing additional protection against fire caused by arc faults in AC final circuits. So they're recommended. That does not mean you have to install them, which is a good thing because they're not particularly common at the moment, but they are now recognised in here, and they're suggesting that as something you could install to prevent fires caused by arc faults. Continuing over the page, if used, an AFDD or arc fault detection device should be placed at the origin of the circuit, so that basically means inside the consumer unit. And examples of where they could be used, which is pretty much anywhere, so no real surprise there. And AFDDs are also called AFCIs in some other countries, or arc fault circuit interrupters. Again, it's the same basic piece of equipment. What these are is electronic devices which look similar to an RCD, except the difference there, they're not leaving an imbalance of current. They've got some electronic stuff inside which will allegedly look for arcs on the circuit and then disconnect in the event that those are detected. And you've got two types of arcs. You've got parallel and serial arcs. Parallel would be between two conductors, so let's say between line and neutral or line and earth, for example. And series arcs are where you say have a conductor that is broken, but yet inexplicably is still arcing, or that could also occur for, say, a defective connection, say in a socket or something, where it was a faulty connection, it was arcing, say within a socket or a plug or some other connection, and the intent of these things, it would detect such a thing and disconnect the circuit before overheating and fire could occur. I say they're not common in the UK, they are theoretically available, but they're going to be pretty expensive, and we're not going to be seeing those for quite a while yet, but if you want to use them, then it certainly is an option. Now this section here, which is about conditions for evacuation in emergency, basically it's for section 422 here. This has been considerably revised, as you see by the marks here, and there's no real standards things in here which things need to comply with. So that has been fairly well revised there. So it did exist before, but the content has changed somewhat. Here's an example of another somewhat pointless change, 4241. This is the new one. Precautions should be taken so that electrical equipment does not ignite walls, floors or ceilings. That's the line with the change. Previously, precautions should be taken to ensure that electrical equipment cannot cause the ignition of walls, floors or ceilings. So basically it says exactly the same thing, just that the words have been slightly altered. Now 443, protection against transient overvoltage of atmospheric origin or due to switching. Basically that means lightning strikes, well obviously it has to be in the wordy fashion. This entire section, which goes from here and actually covers over several pages, has been significantly revised and amended, and there's actually a lot more information in here than there was in the previous edition. And just to give you an idea, in the previous edition it was less than 3 pages, but in this one we've got this page and this one. We've also got a lovely map there showing where lightning may strike, and a whole page here, and a page there, and a big table. We've also got an Annex A 443, which is informative, and an Annex B 443 as well, so quite a lot of extra stuff in there, and there's some examples here of various calculation things that you can do in regard to those circumstances. So 443, well worth having a good read through all of that, because that is all pretty much new, and even if it's not new, it's been considerably revised. Now in another annex, which is Annex A 444, we have this Table A 4441. There's a minor change to this. Again, there's some marks here which don't really amount to a whole lot. The only real change here is in this section here we now have Note 4, and we have a new Note 4 here at the bottom, which is no physical separation other than that provided by the containment. Previously this just had a distance of 0 millimeters. It amounts to pretty much the same thing, as in no physical separation is basically 0 distance, but it's just been altered with a note there and a clarification put in at the bottom. And then at the bottom here, where it says where the above conditions do not apply, see Table A 4442. This is a new table, and again it's giving you the minimum separation between the types of cables there for various voltages and current. So again, that's been added in, and then just a note up there to clarify a point. And there's actually a piece that's been deleted here, which previously applied to a Applications Manual AM7, but that's been deleted, so presumably that particular manual no longer applies. Now the final part here is chapter 46. Now this did not exist in the previous version, so we've got this solid line here indicating that all of this is new, and the next 2 pages are of course the same. Now although this is actually new, it's not as new as it might seem, because most of the content here has been relocated from elsewhere within the regulation, so most of it was in the previous one, it just wasn't in its own chapter. And if you actually go back further than that, chapter 46 used to exist some years ago, but then it was removed and now it's basically been put back where it was before. So although a lot of this is basically new, in reality it's not actually as new as all that, and it's pretty much just another rearrangement of the old content. Suffice to say that chapter 46 has the content here of the scope of what it covers, and isolation, functional switching, switching off for mechanical maintenance, and emergency switching off, all of which were defined and covered in the previous regulations, including the ones that didn't have 46, and of course the ones before that which actually did. So although there's quite a bit of there, say there's 3 full pages of that, nothing there is particularly surprising. It's pretty much the same stuff as existed previously. And just as an example of that, we've got here this new one, allegedly 46311, functional switching should be provided for each part of a circuit which may require to be controlled independently of other parts of the installation. So of course that is technically new, but if you have a look in the previous one, we've got 537511, which guess what is a functional switching device should be provided, and so on. So it's a lot of it's the same content, it's just been rearranged and sort of reconfigured, and basically stuck into its own chapter. Again, I'd say this case is chapter 46. Now that's it for this time, and next time we'll have a look at part 5, but until then, thanks for watching.